In today's video, we start to wrap up our Tavern Props series by putting together this playable interior tavern display. So for today's video, we're going to use a MDF clipboard, some jumbo popsicle sticks or craft sticks, a few regular craft sticks, and some barbecue skewers. Now, if you'd like to find any of these materials, you can check out some of the links in the video description below. So let's go ahead and start making the floor. So starting off with our clipboard, we're going to remove the kind of a clip section from the top. This is going to give us a nice flat and solid surface to work with for our foundation. Alright, once that is removed, I'm going to go ahead and draw on a grid. This one is 3 inches by 3 inches, but you can use any kind of grid that you prefer. I'm just going to make the lines a little bit darker so that they're a little bit easier to see on camera. Alright, so now we need some actual floor pieces, and we're going to make a whole bunch of little planks out of some popsicle sticks. Now the grid is 3 inches by 3 inches, so I'm going to cut a bunch of these to 3-inch lengths, and then twice that many into 1.5 inch lengths. That'll give us some long and short floor planks that we can use. And then I'm going to attach them onto the clipboard in a kind of alternating pattern to create a grid work that can be used as a playable interior, but also look pretty nice and fairly believable for a wood floor. Now, I didn't do it, and I probably should have. I would recommend alternating the grid 90 degrees every time. That way it's a little bit more noticeable. Then I took a small pin reamer and drilled out some nail holes for each of the planks. I would recommend doing this before you glue them down. It'll make it a little bit easier. Now I wanted a little path for the front door, so I'm going to lay down a pretty heavy blob of tacky glue, and then once that is kind of filled in and we don't have any blank spots, I'm going to take a little bit of aquarium gravel and just kind of slop it down and press it into the tacky glue so that we have a fairly even coverage. And then off camera, once this dries, I cover everything with a little bit of Mod Podge to make sure nothing comes loose or falls off during gameplay. Alright, so now let's go ahead and start making the walls. So all the walls are going to have the same kind of base for them, and that is going to be a panel. Now I'm going to make two separate kinds of panels. This one is going to be 6 inches long, and then others are going to be 3 inches long as needed for corners. So once I've got the panel put together, made these out of the jumbo sticks, I'm using a few of the barbecue skewers to cut in place and glue in as kind of support beams to kind of give the impression of a little bit of extra support, and these do actually provide a lot of extra strength. So then, using some of the popsicle sticks, I'm going to create and add a baseboard for the bottom of the wall. This will just add a little bit of extra detail and kind of save some time when it comes to applying texture. So a few of these I want to have windows, so what I'm going to do is cut some matchsticks to be the window frame. I'm cutting 2 pieces at 1 inch and then 2 pieces at 1.25 inches, and then I'm just going to hot glue them into place. Now I did mark out roughly where I wanted these to go, but once you have the first piece in, you can use that as kind of a guide for putting the other pieces into place. Alright, once that's done, I added a few extra supports just to kind of fill out a little bit of detail and make everything look supported. And then for any of the corner pieces, I added some angled supports to kind of give the impression that they're helping to support and hold up a roof. And then to make out a corner, I glued them together at a 90-degree angle. And then using a couple more support beams, I kind of bracket and frame around the corner just to kind of reinforce the edge and make sure it doesn't start to come loose. And then to fill the gap on the corner, I take a couple of matchsticks and use them to fill the gap. And now for the top of the wall sections, I take another little craft stick and trim them to fit into place just to kind of disguise all the layers of the wall. And then fill any gaps with a little bit of hot glue, and that won't really be noticeable once everything gets painted. Then using a mix of spackle and Mod Podge, I fill in all of the open spaces on the walls. Once this dries, this will have a really nice kind of stucco plaster appearance. Now once this is filled in on all the walls, I let them sit for half an hour to an hour before moving on to any painting, but pending where you live and the humidity in the area, your dry time might vary. Alright, so let's go ahead and get some painting done. So I gave everything a base coat with some Krylon flat brown camouflage spray paint, and then followed it up with a dry brush of, well, actually more of an overbrush of raw sienna over all of the wood paneling and support beams. And then to give it a kind of weathered effect and an aged appearance, I gave everything a lighter dry brush of some warm gray. And then for all of the stucco areas, I did a 3-layer coating of some unbleached titanium. This will give it a nice kind of plaster appearance and should prevent any of the underlayers from showing through, and even if they do, it'll just look like aged wear and tear. So now for the floor, I do pretty much the same thing. We do a kind of overbrush of the raw sienna, just kind of making sure to get everything, and you can really see that the nail holes kind of stand out once they've been drilled in. And then I follow it up with that same dry brush of warm gray, just to kind of give everything a weathered appearance. You know, tavern floors aren't exactly brand new. People walk on them all the time. You kind of want to have that reflected in the visual. And then for that path outside, we're going to do a full coating of some gray over all of the larger stones. And you can see that I did apply a little bit of smaller gravel to the outsides of the path. I didn't really think about filming that until after that was done. That's my bad. Speaking of that gravel, I'm going to do a fairly light coating of burnt umber. This is going to be just on the surface level. I'm not really trying to get all the nooks and crannies. That way we have a kind of shadowed appearance for the lower layers. And then finish the path up with a dry brushing of neutral gray. And off camera I did apply a layer of null oil just to kind of create a little bit of shadows. Alright, so now let's finish out the windows and assemble the final piece. So, because these aren't through and through windows, I'm going to use some of this aluminum tape to kind of create a reflective surface and give the impression that there is a through window even though there isn't. Now, I am taking some time to make sure everything fits correctly and the window is flush. Then it's just peel off the backing and very carefully stick it in place. Then using the edge of a tool, I just kind of make sure all the corners are pressed flat. And then to add some window leading, I took some mesh grating, spray painted it black, and then cut it to fit size. Some of these were able to fit in with tension. Others I had to put and do a little bit of a dab of some gel superglue. You want to use gel, not liquid for this. It won't discolor the paint. And then to assemble everything together, I very quickly applied a bead of hot glue and then fitted everything into its appropriate place. And just like that, we've got a nice playable interior for a tavern. And now I think it's time for a little story. Entering into the Ruby Blade Tavern, you find yourself walking into the middle of a bar fight. Some of the patrons are shouting out thieves, and many have weapons drawn. Do you run to alert the city watch, or pick a side and join the fight? What will you do, adventurer? Alright, so this was a ton of fun to put together, and this series has been a blast to do. Really helps to bring a lot of life to the table, so thank you all so much for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe for future content, comment in the comment section, and tune in on Friday where we finish out the series.